You see, this is the picture, this is the world, isn't it? I look outside here, this is the world, nothing, it's all gone mad. I think the whole world's gone mad. So I love it when I get people in the cab and it's debate, isn't it? That's my favourite one, that is. I should frame that really, shouldn't I? I should frame it and put, this is the flag of the people. All the people, the world's people.
Going back to when you first visited Cuba, when was that and how was that experience?
That was about 17 years ago, 1997 or something, 98, with my late wife. And after the recommendation from the Canadian tourists in the cab, we had a trip into Havana. And I just couldn't believe what I saw. The shops were virtually empty. There wasn't hardly one item on one shelf in one shop. And when we asked questions, they said, oh, we're blockaded by the US. And because a few years prior to that, the Soviet Union collapsed. And so they lost 85% of their trade or thereabouts. We see that there was struggles there that maybe we could associate after World War II. On the way back, I just felt I had to do something. I had to sort of break this wall of silence because I just briefly heard the blockade when I was in Cuba, but when I come back and spoke to politicians in the cab, academics, journalists, and I got more information. I bought a new cab, a white one. I've always drove a black traditional cab with no advertising on the outside, but this time I bought a white one, had the Cuban flag sprayed from bonnet to boot. And then I debated, I sort of like spoke to virtually every passenger in the cab about Cuba. And as the years went on, and it was years, cab drivers would shout to me, hey Tony, I've just come back from Cuba, or I'm going to Cuba in December. So I thought maybe the word is just, the cab has helped to get it out. It's sad that there we are in the 21st century, where a third world and poor country are denied access to more than 50% of the world's medicines. In fact, when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, whenever it was, Cuba had to go as far as New Zealand to buy powdered milk for their children. They couldn't purchase it from the dairy producers of Mexico, South American countries, because those companies had assets in America and those assets could be seized. The US is a bully. That was loaded with aid, that truck.
How many times have you been to Cuba now?
24 times in 19 years. First time was a beach holiday. All the rest was study tours and hospitals. We take aid out with it. Our group of 16, we take children's clothing, jeans, soaps and all that. And this was obviously the border crossing with interviews before. We could have been all arrested and banged up in prisons in the US. That's Lucius Walker. This is the chap that organises the border crossing every year into Canada, bound for Havana. We got to Havana, and the following day we went to Pioneer's Palace, where Fidel Castro and Raul Castro, his brother, and Lucius Walker introduced a group and said within a few seconds that the whole of the 50 vehicles was led by a London cab driver with the Cuban flag sprayed across the top. I went over to Fidel and gave him a photograph of the cab. His colours flying right in the heart of the capitalist system. Winning the lottery wouldn't be on the same level as having a handshake with Fidel Castro. See, I still have the little Cuban flag hanging on the window here, and they would say, "What's your flag?" And I'd say to them, "Oh, I thought I had a British accent." And then they say, "Oh yes, but what's the flag?" And then I would say, "Cuban," and that would get us in debate, you see.
So what made you donate your cab to the Motor Museum in Havana?
I thought it was its spiritual home to what I've been doing, promoting Cuba in London, and the actual cab ends up in their museum. It was something. It was I don't know, it's like winning the lottery really, having this, oh yes, we're pleased to accept the cab. But it was sad. It was sad because, you know, I was 16 years running around London, and my wife was alive at the time, you know, many years when I was promoting Cuba. It was sad to look at that cab and to think you know, all the communication I've done with people in the cab and particularly the politicians. Mandela, when he became president of South Africa, I'm only a free man today because of the Cubans. And the first country Mandela visited was Havana. Held the hand of Fidel Castro in Revolution Square and says, look how far us we slaves have come.
So what's next for you now? Do you have any plans?
Go back to Cuba. I'm off again in May for next year for the May Day celebrations, and carry on, you know, as long as I can. I want to see Cuba grow stronger and become independent, and to end the blockade of Cuba and release the Miami 5. Let's always be reminded about the Miami 5 anti-terrorists. 2 have been released in the last year or 2, but none of them are free until they're all free. Thank you, sir. Put that in your box. Thank you. Bye-bye. Up the revolution, bruv. It won't be long now. It won't be long.